But we're going to, of course, kick off with the budget. And I didn't watch any of it on telly. I just thought, well, I've got things to do, better things to know. I didn't watch, but I did know that Nicola Willis pretty much delivered on what she would say, tax cuts, almost exactly in line with the party's pre-election policy, some new spending on key areas like health and education, and a little much besides. But she used words like disciplined, decisive, and tough, stating, like Kiwi households, we're tightening our belt. Now, Willis said that of the government's approach, continuing to draw parallels between the need for discipline in the budget of a household and a country alike. And that discipline has involved a swathe of cuts to government departments and programs with a scale of reductions already known, but the specifics now able to be picked through as opposition parties and outside organisations already are. So to give us a little bit of a look at, an overall look at today's budget. Of course, it was only announced a couple of hours ago. Economist at NZ Initiative is Dr. Bryce Wilkinson, and he's with me now. Bryce, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Well, I haven't had a lot of time, Bryce, so we don't expect you to give us details on everything, but overall, what did you make of today's budget?
As you've said in your introduction, it's there as foreshadowed and forecast. My main comment on it is that it's a pretty grim story, and it just shows what a big job there is ahead of this government and perhaps any a subsequent government to try and get restore the situation to something like what it was before COVID and before that. So we're still looking at government spending and taxes remaining very high for a long time, both absolutely and relative to GDP, and debt sort of going up before it goes down. So tough yards ahead.
I mean, they've shaved almost $6 billion from cutbacks of back office staff and government programs, of which $3.7 billion will be used to pay for tax cuts. And some say, Bryce, that money there, tax cuts will range from about $4 to $40 a fortnight for nearly all workers. Was it really worth giving tax cuts?
Oh, well, it was the government commitment to do that, and the alternative to tax cuts for putting money in people's pockets is to increase spending. So what counts is what gets into people's pockets. So you can just think of a tax cut as the alternative to a spending increase. So they've done what they've done. Possibly a Labour government would have done it with higher spending, but perhaps with a similar outcome as far as disposable incomes go.
Could you, they've left themselves with not a lot of wiggle room, annual operating allowances of just $2.4 billion for the next three budgets. Is that, I'm no expert on this, Bryce, that's not a lot, am I right?
Yeah, you're right. It looks extremely tough, and I've just spent about 20 minutes looking through about 30 pages in the monetary policy statement on all the contingent liabilities and financial risks, and there's just a daunting list of things which could go wrong from a fiscal position point of view. So that's the saying that reflects my remarks. It's a pretty grim type position looking forward, whoever's going to be in government.
The government did set a return to surplus a year later than they previously forecast. So now they're thinking 2027-28 fiscal year. I still think that's actually quite good. Again, no expert, but as stated, if we'd gone on the way that Labour had been spending it, you'd be talking 2030s. Is that still a good time frame?
They'll have worked it through. That's the time frame they've got. But as we're just saying, you've got to put a significant probability on it that they won't make that. There's so many risks and contingencies, as you observed. The operating allowance is very meagre. I would say for the government that the situation they got was worse than it appeared, and that Labor had created some programs like the increase in spending on Farmac, which they'd said they've only provided for a year or 2 years, whereas really it didn't make sense to cut them off once they were established. So the government's had to add things into the spending base which were realistic to add in.